The Black identity is very there's so much to it.
Yeah, it's very complex.
There's no just certain way to be Black.
Yeah,
you just are.
That's true,
and that can mean many things.
I certainly agree, and especially when you're younger, especially as a teenager, it's rough because you're just you ain't wearing your Jordans, or you ain't wearing this or that, then you ain't got to talk a certain way, or there's these certain things that you have to do to be accepted. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Speak Your Life podcast. My name is Andre, and I'm your host. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to make sure that you get all the content that we have, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even on YouTube. Today's special guest is all the way from Atlanta, here in the ATL, right around the block. Graduated with a bachelor's degree in biology from Florida A&M University. Holds a master's of science in mental health counseling from Georgia State, and is now a certified counselor with Journey Counseling. Please welcome David Johnson.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today on this Sunday. I know yesterday we were supposed to get the podcast going, but today we made it happen. So
yeah, it's no problem.
Thanks for making the time.
Stuff happens.
So anyways, quick background. So David is actually the older brother to one of my childhood friends, Jared, and we go way back since elementary school. So that's kind of how I knew you, and back when we were back in Fayetteville, Georgia. So long time, high school, all of it. So, anyways, how are you feeling, man?
Not bad.
Yeah,
it's really awesome. This is the first podcast I've ever been on, so it's really cool.
Nice. Well, hey, you got to start somewhere, right? You got to start with the best one. So, anyways, we usually ask people are you ready to speak your life? That's the first question.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. So Mark Twain always has this quote, where I always paraphrase, where he talks about the two most important things in life are knowing the day you were born and why. So you can give us a specific date, or you can give us a approximate of what was going on in the culture at the time of and give us that journey, that in between of knowing the day you were born, and then giving us that journey that led up to knowing why.
Got you. Well, I mean, first off, I'm a 90s baby, born in the 90s.
That's right.
April 7th, 1991. I was born Crawford Lawn Hospital, and then raised in Fayetteville. So a suburban kid. So being a Black kid in suburbs is interesting.
Yeah.
Especially where we were, where it's a real mix of different types of people.
Yeah.
I think we were pretty fortunate because there was a lot of other Black people there, because Sandy Creek was
it was
half and half of not even half and half, but at least a mix of white, Black, Latino, all different types of people.
Yeah.
Because I met so many people who didn't have a whole lot of people that looked like them in their space.
And so how did that, I don't know, going from elementary, middle school, high school, and transitioning through college, and what made you or gravitate towards studying therapy, or and all those things?
So I think the first thing was just I received so much help for me personally, because I had ADHD when I was a kid, and no one knew, because no one knew the signs to look out for, and also I was a pretty smart kid. So and you see that with a lot of kids sometimes is struggling internally, but because most of the things between K through 12 is measured academically, if you're fine, they don't worry too much. They're just you're just undermotivated, or you just need to try a little bit harder. Especially with especially with a lot of minority kids in general. Either they'll give them the diagnosis to basically be well, this is what's wrong with you, or they'll be it's overdiagnosed, underdiagnosed at the same time, or at least incorrectly. And especially with my parents are great because they were just technically just didn't know, were uninformed. But with a lot of kids, it's a lot of that denial of and Black mental health in general. Sometimes it's ADHD, it's not real, depression, you just need to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of us have at least a little bit of anxiety right now. So because I initially wanted to be a physician, but after realizing how much I just enjoyed talking and being around people, I really switched that focus to mental health. So hence the biology degree that I don't really use right now, but I got to get my master's in mental health counseling instead at Georgia State. It's a really great school. It really talks about how being advocates for social justice and how to create change in people and like the individual counseling perspective.
Wow. Was there like a moment, or were there a couple of moments that kind of led to you figuring out, like saying like, yeah, I picked this major, I picked this area of study or this specialty, but like this feels right. Like this feels right. Like me in my own life journey, like this direction just feels right. And this feels like this is my purpose. Like, was there like a moment or a couple of moments that kind of like, that you can remember that were like,
it was right in my transition period from like, I was applying to med schools. It just wasn't really feeling right. And then as I was looking into other stuff, when I talked to my parents and talked to people I knew at the time, I was like, I'm thinking about counseling. It's like, oh yeah, that seems great for you. Yeah. And there's been so many instances where people were like, oh, I remember a thing you said that really helped me out. I was like, I don't even remember saying it, but I'm glad it was really helpful for you. Yeah. And the ability to just sit there and be with people, I guess it was like a culminating moments. And I think a lot of times we have, not that maybe we don't know what the interest we want is when we're younger. Yeah. But I know I thought about whatever counseling was at one point. But I think we're given like the main things to think about, like doctor or like service, like police or firefighter, or like things like that. And like not thinking about the various niche things. Or I wish that counseling was like a niche, but like not everyone's like growing up like, I want to be a therapist. That's typically, it's like, you know, when you're a kid, you're growing up, you're like, oh, I want to be a basketball player like Michael Jordan, you know, back in the 90s. Or you want to, you know, be a police officer or an astronaut or something like that. Exactly. You're right. Therapy is not really, you know, or a therapist is not something that comes first to mind for a kid. But yeah, that's great that you were able to, like, you know, go through those different things and maybe make some failures along the way to find where it is that you are now. So it takes, and that's what I guess you had to try different things. So like, you're like, all right, I did a biology degree, but like, I'm not using that. But you know, maybe something about that led you to the next step. So absolutely. I could not tell you if me getting biology would have still led me in this direction. So I don't regret getting it. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough where I could allow myself to have that transition, which is amazing because a lot of people can transition career easily, especially depending on like what they have. Luckily, I had a lot of family support to help me out. So I was really like blessed in that regard, but you know, not everyone can do that.
Yeah, that's so true. And being in this space, you know, a lot. I think, you know, here we really want to like kind of get into like men's mental health a little bit more. You know, mental health is a big issue, but I think especially for men, you know, I remember reading some statistics, as like Statistica was talking about how like the percentage of women in the U.S. that have a therapist is like almost 21%. It's like 20.8%. And for men, it's about 11.2%. So almost half, pretty much half. And it's like, that's really insane. And then it's like, I know there's correlation versus causation, but it's like 2/3 of suicides in America are from men. Yep. And so it's just like, we don't really know, like, there's so many factors to, you know, try to like connect the dots, but it's just like, I'm sure there's something in that I don't know. What are your thoughts on like, on this whole thing, all these two being connected?
Oh no, it definitely, like, it's interesting. It's like, so women might attempt to complete suicide more and like not succeed, but men are much more successful at completing suicide because they might use like a firearm, or something. And yeah, like for men, we're like taught a couple different things that are really like inherent, like especially black men. I mean, there's a general part of the black community is that you don't talk about your stuff. Yeah, like keep it to yourself. What's the point of talking about it? I just like I grind, I get it done, then I'll be good. And there's the aspect of men where I think where women succeed in this regard is like how friendships work. Like male friendships can really be based around like experiences. Like I'm gonna go maybe grab a drink with you, or we might watch the game together, we might go to the gym together, but it's always centered around something where a lot of times women just like, I'm just gonna come over and we're just gonna talk and just hang out. Yeah. Guys might not do that as much. It has to be like it's like under the veil of like doing something.
Yeah.
So like, I might be going through something. I don't know how to express that. So hey, let's go watch the game or let's do something like that.
Smoke a blunt.
Yeah, and I might bring it up.
Yeah,
and then maybe we can actually talk about it.
Mm.
And there's the deal like I can figure this out. I can do this by myself.
Mm.
Like for some reason, getting help makes it less valuable somehow, even though we are community-based people.
Yeah.
And everything, which it can really hurt guys. And I really try to advocate for like, because the men that I see least in therapy are black men.
Yeah.
Even the ones that I do see just like, this is weird. This is difficult. Like, and it still feels like a weakness to put this stuff out there, to value the negative emotions, like, sadness, or to like acknowledge your anger in a healthy way. And I think that's why it can really be detrimental to men, and like, because we don't know how to express stress, express sadness, express grief. The only place you can cry is at a funeral, maybe, but that's about it.
Yeah. Wow. And then, I kind of think about, slavery and stuff like that, and how that's, I know people are like, oh, we're too tired of hearing that, but it's like, it really is connected to it.
Absolutely.
And I really don't believe there's a coincidence that Black people are the most religious people, because when you have a people that go through so much trauma, broken up families from, the Willie Lynch letters, and the way that he broke down the family, you buck break, you take the man out first, and that's how you destroy. You pit the woman against the man, and make her masculine and the feminine, make her the father and the son. I mean, the father and the mother. I'm over here, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I was over there listening to some praise, on the way here. So that's probably what I'm thinking about. But I just really think about how the connection of slavery is very relevant to like what is going on even now. And even though it's so long ago, I think sometimes people for so long, Black people's way of coping was the church.
Yeah.
And again, that's why we're so religious as a people, I think. And it just seems that could be true.
It's, and no matter like what anybody's belief system is, there is credit to having a higher power.
Yeah.
In a sense, like believing something bigger than yourself, whether that someone is the universe, whether that's God, whether it's anything can help you. One of the really good things you can do is just kind of step outside of yourself and like acknowledge that like there are things going on bigger than you, because that can be very comforting to a lot of people, and that's why it's including stuff like AA and things like that. Like it's not always necessarily God, but that would encourage like finding some space where you can like have a higher power, like to put like yourself in that position. Yeah. And I mean, I can imagine that was really helpful for us back then. It's so helpful for us now, like to have that space, because it's like this huge just weight that you walk with, and people can understand, it was a long time ago. That's generational trauma. That's what you carry with you just through, like, because I wasn't a slave, but like, as like everyone, like you learn these things, like back then you have kids, you keep teaching those things over and over again. Like it doesn't just go away like that. It doesn't. And then that same pain, that same resilience gets carried over. Thank God we've had both, but the pain gets carried over too. And that's the part like we got to remember to acknowledge. Yeah, that's true. And I think acknowledgement is the first step. And I think people like in our community, especially the men, like we don't want to, I think when we acknowledge, or there's this perception, I think in media where like you have like, like from the beginning of media, like, we're always portrayed as this big alpha male, strong, masculine, and, either you're an athlete, either you're a rapper, you look like Tupac, you thug life, and all that stuff. It's just like you're portraying, this is this portrayal of what Black men are supposed to be. Yeah. And some of it is, good. And then other parts of it is just like, then there's the other side of it where it's just like, ooh, well, I don't think expressing myself is like a masculine trait, or I feel like, being able to talk to somebody about it. You don't have to be crying and sobbing with tissues everywhere with your boys. They may laugh at you, but you may at least go to somebody. You don't have to go to everybody and tell everybody your business. That's not smart. But you can at least go to a therapist and talk to someone who, your information will
be protected. You don't have to worry about being judged, and all those different things. And you can just share, what is going on, because it's just like, if you shake the Coke bottle hard enough, it's going to burst eventually,
Yeah.
So,
and there's that mistrust of the medical system. And that's also carried over because for good reason, we've been screwed over by the medical system,
Tuskegee experiment. Yeah.
Yes, so many times. So why wouldn't you not trust it?
Yeah.
And I wish that weren't the case. So we have to try to give good faith to people and earn that respect of you can come here and yes, everything you say will be held confidentially.
Yeah.
As much as within our power, that we will make sure none of this is going to be said anywhere else.
Yeah.
And once people find that comfort, it can feel really good for them. And especially men, because I think, especially heteronormal, heterosexual men, a lot of times that person might be their girl or their wife or their girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have that access, then that's the only person you have to come to.
Yeah.
And that's why when you see a lot of older men, their wife might die, or might be something like that, they're very lonely because they don't have a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Or that person that they had that confidant's not there anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's and then it's the opposite for women because they're very socially connected naturally, and they, when their husband passed, they're able to still, have their family, their friends, and just still be able to be socially connected, and that's social connectedness is linked to longevity of life, and you have Sardinia, you have places in Japan where are considered the blue zones, which I'm sure maybe you've heard of. The blue zones are where the most centenarians live, people who are 100 or more. Yeah. And they said that it's not, the connection to that longevity is not basically, it's primarily not even their diet, which is kind of counterintuitive. But the number one reason for why they are centenarians is because of their social connectedness, their ability to be able to go to the next door and talk with their neighbors, or because a lot of these people don't, in these other countries don't do nursing homes. They're like, what is that? That's a foreign concept.
Yeah.
And they're able to relate to others, and their family checks in on them and doesn't just put them in a nursing home and say, oh yeah, well, I'll see you when I see you, or something like that,
Yeah. And unfortunately, we have a little bit of that, right? Even though America is more of an individualistic country, I think within that, the Black people are more community based, and comparable at least. And because you'll have your grandpa, you might have your granddad live in your house, or they might be coming over there instead of you putting them in a nursing home, because you're I don't want to just leave you there, which is awesome. And I think we have a lot of aspects of that. Just remembering, in terms of wellness and health, social connection, genuine, authentic social connection is important for everyone.
Yeah.
And for everyone to keep doing that. And it's okay to share when you have your pain. And it's okay to share that with people that you trust.
That's true. So, everything, I typically think of it all starts when you're a child, when you're growing up. I loved what your company is doing with the Ebony journey and stuff like that. It's just being able to have a space, a Facebook group where parents can chime in and just share positive Black images, Black and brown kids. It could be images, videos, posters, or even dolls, toys and figures. Yeah. Because just growing up, I didn't, really have too many, and maybe you had the same experience.
Absolutely.
We didn't grow up with Black Panther figures. We had the G.I. Joes, which were white. My sister had her Barbie dolls, which were mainly white. She had a few Black ones, but you had the Spider-Mans, the Thors, all that stuff.
This is wow, because even even with the fantasy stuff, someone decided that in a fantasy, for some reason, Black people can't exist. Like Lord of the Rings, very white, even though Middle Earth is not real. You can't have Black people. But then people would still get angry, they got angry, Idris Elba was in there because he's not Norse. It's they are space aliens.
Wow.
They can look however they want. But it's still that idea that for some reason in those, in that space of creativity and imagination, Black people have to, for some reason fight to be in that, which anybody should be able to be in that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I remember that famous study from the 1940s of Kenneth and Mamie Clark. It was and it was bringing the black kids and the white kids and just like, which doll's the nice doll? Which one is the bad doll? Yeah. And then 63% of the black kids said that the white doll is the nice one. And then what was really, really a shocker was when they found out that 44% of the black kids identified most with the white doll.
Yeah.
And I think that's only because of media. I think that's only because if that's what you see all day, every day, and from TV to posters to, I don't know, everything, movies, like, and that's all you see, you're going to think that, that's what you identify with. That's what's good. That's the nice person. That's the good person. The other one's bad.
Yeah.
And
like, if you think about that, if you were internalizing that what you look like is bad, that like can kill just like how you feel about yourself. And then you grow up feeling that way where like, what this is not correct. And then everybody gets to remind you of that in their own sort of way as you go through life. I was happy I got to go to HBCU and get that experience of being around a lot of people that look like me. Because even with me, like I have some like a slight ambiguity to how I look sometimes. And like to see like the various shades and colors of black people was awesome. And that was really helpful for me and like in my growth and my experience. But like once you internalize that, like at some point it can be healthy to unpack it. Instead of just like, kind of burying it down through like work or being successful. Because there's a lot of people where it's like, no matter how successful you get, like in those quiet moments, you still might not feel like that's what you like. That's like, you can do these things.
Wow. Yeah. Because, speaking of the ambiguity thing, it's like, I know, like, that's, would you say that's something that you struggle with, like, from the beginning? Because, like, I know, and I'm gonna keep it really real. Because like growing up in school, we were like, Jared's our brother. I think he's from the Middle East. Is he adopted? Like, that used to always be like the question. But like, was that something like, I don't know, how did you deal with that? And cope with that? And
that was like, and I think I said, even that's on a certain level, I didn't even consider myself like black. It's weird. Like intellectually, these things. But deep down in your heart, like, it feels, because people are like, when you got your own people asking like, hey, what are you? And I'm like, and even now, as far as those time people ask like, what am I? It's like, I'm black. It's like, are you sure? It's like, don't ever ask someone, are you sure?
No,
and anything related to your identity, just be like, okay, cool. Like,
then
no one's ever gonna be like, now that I thought about it, maybe I'm not.
Like,
and even that's like an offshoot of like colorism and racism, right? Like, because we are taught to be put in this one box, and anything outside that box like doesn't make sense.
True.
And like broadening that thought. So like, that's something I had to deal with. But even it's a privilege to have to deal with that, because I know like, my brother, he has more negative interaction with the police than I have.
Really?
Probably just because of looking more what you would consider a black man to look like.
Yeah, darker skin.
That was probably a more difficult part, because you got to like find a space to express that. Like, how can you express it when like all of my people are dying? Like, what do my problems matter as? And I think that can be like with a lot of people in like any type of privileged position, right? Where it's like, why should I complain when like other people might have it like way worse than me? But it's not the struggle Olympics, and that's why if you have someone who you can just talk to, it's okay to talk about that. It's not like you're taking, like, as long as you're not taking that space away from anybody else, like, I'm not going to go to like a Black Lives Matter thing and be like, hey guys, what about me though? This is the space for that. And my counselor and therapist is the space for like me dealing with like my crap. And, like,
exactly.
People navigating this like things of like colorism and like the privilege of looking a certain way. And there's nothing, we're always going to have our struggles.
Exactly.
And like, I never want to take away from someone who's like light skin or dark skin, like you're going to have specific experiences. It's just like allowing other people to have their experience as well. And sometimes if we can't communicate that well, there's like a clash. Right? Because we're like, well, like when dark skin people like, we might have it harder. It's like, you have like a lot of certain things that might be a lot more difficult. And even if like people who might be like lighter or fairer can't have that as much too, it's like we're in this together.
As much into the Black community. It's just like, there's so many different things. There's like, who's more blacker, and there's all these questions, and I'm sure that many people that I know at HBCUs that have colorism within the HBCU spaces and within the Black community as well. And that's a whole nother podcast episode.
Like, so many of my friends who've been told like, you're pretty for a dark skinned girl, which is like, my mom's dark skinned. I never
Your
thought
mom is
that was
beautiful.
Yeah, I never thought that was supposed to be a bad thing
like,
until I learned. I was like, oh, people don't prefer that.
She's beautiful, period.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, and so it's, yeah, but yeah, going back to like, you know, as growing up as kids, seeing that representation, that's so important because like, I wanted to get I honestly wanted to get your opinion on like, how impactful, like, you know, when, you know, Black Panther came, because it's just like, you know, again, we didn't grow up with that.
Yeah.
And then to see, like, when I came in there, 24 years old, 2018, when that movie came out, I came in the daishiki and everything like that. Man, I was excited because I was like, man, even though I'm adult, I'm just like, this is so cool to see a blackface as a hero and not just like the side character, but like, this is the main thing.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, because I really think imagination and creativity is so important.
Yeah.
Like those things of like, even though it's like, you know, maybe someone's not grow up to be Black Panther, but they might grow up to like, I want to go invent something insane. And like, I have that idea now because I want to do that. Like,
exactly.
Or I want to go just like to imagine things outside of yourself, imagine these impossible things of like, all right, you know, I'm going to figure out how to go to space. Like, I want to figure out how to like do these wild things, or even like, it just helps because they were able to put that even like oppression through that lens on what it's like, or even like the nuances about Black people experience things like between Killmonger and Black Panther. It's sometimes easier for people to acknowledge that instead of just being like told into like, you know, like the very sad history that we can have. And it's like,
that's true.
And it's just, it was amazing. Like, it's amazing to see those things. It's amazing to see people like do things and be successful. Like, I loved it. It was, it was. And, you know, we got, luckily we had a few of the people, right? We had Storm, we had, who was an X-Men, and who were the other Black people that we grew up with?
I'm trying to think, like, I mean, I would say Luke Cage, but that wasn't, that's not something recent. Yeah, that's more recent. I mean, he was in the comic books, but most of us didn't really like figure him out until like when he came out on Netflix in 2016. There wasn't like,
there's Blades, even though you're slightly too young for that, but Blade was out there.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
You get a little bit every once in a while,
sprinkle here and there.
But now people are like, oh, what, minorities could be popular? Like, that's great. Like, let's
generate revenue.
Like, yeah, we can actually buy things. It was like, who knew if we just didn't just cater to white people that we would actually make money off of it?
Yeah, and the great thing about Black Panther and the all Black cast is like, this is not, you know, they were like, oh, this is gonna be a failure. It's like a Tyler Perry only catering to blacks, but like, no, this movie had international success, and I feel like it brought so much inspiration, especially to the little kids, the little young boys, and they're like, oh, I want to be like Black Panther, and it's like there's this pride that you had, and you know, I think there wasn't this pride. I mean, I would say the last time I seen a wave of, or maybe I didn't see it, but it was before I was born. But the wave of pride for like African roots and Pan-African, roots is Coming to America. Like, that was a movie that I would say there are certain movies that like shifted things as far as like making that creating that appreciation within Black Americans about our African roots. And I say that because like my mom, she had an African wedding based on the movie, Coming to America. She was like, I love that so much, and that made such an impact on me that I'm having an African wedding. So they had the attire and everything, and it was cool. And I think Black Panther was that movie for this generation because growing up in school, like, growing up in North Fayette and, Flat Rock and Sand Creek, it's just like, it was not cool to like, African attire was not cool. People would make fun of African kids and the way they talked and their accent. And now I feel like it's more acceptable. Like African roots is more acceptable. The clothing, just like everything, the culture is more acceptable. Like we think Wakanda's, a place that we can go to is like, it's not real, but it's just like, it gives us that confidence and just appreciating African roots, not just like Black, American culture, but just the African roots. And so,
I mean, because all of our stuff is really fragmented, and our culture is a different culture than a lot of other people's because of what its history was, and like how we can't just trace things like other people, and to have confidence in many of those things is great. And like I said, like with mental health and stuff, it's not to not be confident, but it's also to appreciate all aspects of yourself and not the things that just might be considered positive. And like the hard things about yourself to acknowledge and to still like yourself for, even if you might consider it to be a negative trait. Like that's what's important, like the authenticity of like all of you.
Wow. And also just, speaking of like getting back to the whole space of like therapy and things like that. And it was talking about like, I think it was like the American Psychiatric Association was saying how like there's 41,000 US therapists or psychiatrists and only 2% are Black.
Yep.
And I was like, that kind of made me sad. I was like, that's really unfortunate. And I don't know, like what do you see as like how this can grow, like this 2% can grow, or what are some ways that you feel like there could be more? I don't know.
Yeah, that is a good question. And like, especially I would love to have more Black men in the therapy space. I am a very niche thing. Yeah. Like, I wish there were more.
Yeah.
And that's in like, so like, it's something like the teaching field of like mostly women. I love like women of color just are really doing it right now. Like,
they
taking up the space of like being therapists, being teachers, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And like, and that's, I think one thing is just like talking to like young Black men about just being able to talk about stuff and telling them it's okay to be able to talk about stuff. And they want to like, that's what made me want to do what I do, is because like I said, the help that was given to me, like I want to try to give it to other people.
Yeah.
And like, that's the way I want to give it to them, and like being able to be in that space. And I think especially a lot of guys are used to like, we go about things in a very logical, like a fix it type mentality.
Yeah.
And not really taught as much as just like sit with things and sit with people, because not all things have a definite answer. Or like, especially like, with like a lot of dads, it's like, and I'm really happy like my dad like wasn't just this, but it's like, I fed you, I clothed you, you're good. Like I did it, right? Like I did the thing.
That's it. Like, I don't need to be there in your life emotionally. Yeah. I don't get to be invested mentally.
And that's the double-edged sword, like, because I know like you had to do that. You didn't have room for that. And that's the generational trauma part, where it's just like, I work all this, I give you this, that is how I show my love for you, which is great. But for some, like, kids need all those things. Yeah. And like, that's why like all this other stuff is important, to allow people to have more resources to be all those things for their kids. Because like, when you have a lack of resources, you focus on the things that matter the most. Like, I kept you alive. Yeah. That's great.
Wow.
Like, let's focus on that. I don't have time to like do all the other stuff.
Go to your baseball games.
Yeah.
Just like,
And I know they would probably want to, like anybody would. Like, my dad was at every single track meet. He was like at all those things.
I remember he would always be there when we had track meets.
He has all the videos and like those, and he was also a hard worker, but those are things I remember him for. That like, he was there.
Yeah.
And he had the ability to be there. So like, it is not a knock on any other like Black fathers who like, working hard is like what you got to do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I just want people to, like when we can be mindful of like giving your kids the other thing too, and the space to be whatever they're trying to be. Because the Black identity is very like, there's so much to it.
Yeah, like, it's very complex.
There's no just like certain way to be Black.
Yeah,
like you just are.
That's true,
and that can mean many things.
I certainly agree, and especially when you're like younger, especially as a teenager, it's rough, because you're just like, you ain't wearing your Jordans, or you ain't wearing this or that, then you ain't got to talk a certain way, or, there's these certain things that you have to do to be accepted. And it's crazy because the age range, like 15 to 24, that age range, it's like the third leading cause of death is suicide.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with like, being accepted, being appreciated, especially as a teenager, because it's rough. Like, because I remember, I remember like in middle school, I had these Jordans. They were fake Jordans, y'all. They were the fake Jordans. Instead of the 5 fingers stretching out over 6 fingers, like the extra one. And so I was like, we couldn't afford the $200 Jordans, so I had to get the fake ones. And so I usually would like wear pants, and so that nobody could see that. People would be like, oh, that's fresh. But then one time I slipped up and wore shorts, and I got clowned the whole day. But it's just like, imagine if like I didn't have anybody to like, I have, a great support system, but imagine the kids who go through that kind of humiliation every single day because their parents can't afford certain kind of clothes, or they can't afford, certain things, and they drive in a beat up car and drop their kids off, and then, kids are making fun of them for that, and or maybe how they smell, and just like there's all these different things that the kids get made fun of, and and if they don't have a support system of any kind or a mentor or something like that, then kids commit suicide.
Yeah.
So
and because a lot of people don't even know how to talk about like depression and what even that looks like.
Yeah.
Because people think of like depression as like you're just really sad. It's not really sad. You're really numb. And then you don't care if you're living or not.
It's like apathetic.
Yeah, it's like the lack of feelings when it gets really to being depression. It's like it's not good to be sad, but sadness is just as important. Not only you saw Inside Out, sadness, real integral part of like all the other emotions. Like you gotta put it out there because all emotions are complicated. But it's when you start to not feel those things, that's when even before that's important to speak out to somebody, but that's when it's like really important for kids to talk about things. But in order for people to really get down and talk about with someone who is depressed or who is suicidal, you gotta like be in there with them. I think that's what can make some people uncomfortable is because you got to sit with that too instead of just being like, oh, like maybe you're not as sad, like maybe it's okay, maybe like at least you have this, which don't like also don't do that, like just be like there's a time and place to acknowledge the good things people have, but when they are feeling down, like you gotta like let them have that voice of when they're feeling down. It's just like how we are now as Black people denying what's happening to us. And it's being like, well, you have this or this happens. Like, no, but this is literally what's happening right in front of you.
You guys have Oprah and Dave Chappelle.
Like,
what?
We had one Black president, so we're good now. Like, it's fine.
I just laugh when I hear that stuff. I'm just like, really? Are you serious? But it's just, you're right about that. You need to meet people where they are. And if they are at a place where they're just not able to appreciate even the good things that are going in their life, be there with them and just listen to them, listen more than you speak. And I think that's what the key is. And I think what you're doing is really great. And not only just, working in the therapy space, but also doing the mentoring. I know you kind of mentioned that before.
I do academic ADHD coaching for like teenagers, or like normally teenagers, sometimes college students. Because even kids who don't deal with ADHD and focus issues, like are not taught how to go about school correctly. I don't think any kids are. It's like go study. It's like what's how do you study? No one like tells you how to study. It's like go study for this.
That's right.
And stuff like that. Sometimes if teachers are really swamped and can't help you out, and if you're depending on what education of your parents are, may not be able to do those things. Like
that's so true.
Because even before that, I was with College Advising Corps, which is like an extension of AmeriCorps. It's like a nonprofit where we helped a lot of kids. I was in the Atlanta public school system where we helped like a lot of kids, they're mostly kids of color, like figure out how to go to college. And like how to navigate that space. Because it's a privilege to know how to do that. Like not everyone knows how to do that. I got lucky. I got lucky that my parents like knew how college worked. My mom, I think, did a lot of that stuff for me. She did my FAFSA. She did all that stuff. It was like, and I had to help kids do that because parents sometimes had no idea. Yeah,
that's true. And and a lot of them they work in 2-3 jobs, morning shift, night shift. They don't have time. They get back, they're too tired, and the kid has to figure it out themselves. And some kids don't even have access to internet at their house too. So there's all these different factors that play into it. And how do you feel like maybe there are some changes that you noticed about the kids that you've mentored, like from the day they started with the program into like now? I don't know.
Like say with like College Advising Corps, just seeing them like feel empowered to like go out and do the things they want to do. Like it's amazing. Like because you don't need to give them a lot to make them feel like they can do something. And like to educate people. That's like true. All these skills, like it doesn't take much, but it does take time. And that's the part that we need to keep giving to people, teaching these kids about all the options that are out there. Like even telling people like you don't have to go to the 4-year school. You can go to like the 2-year vocational school and still make a whole lot of money. Like I got like a bachelor's and a graduate degree, and someone can like go to vocational school and get like do like maintenance or something and make
more money.
A decent amount of money. Like
plumbers making plumbers make $250 a year.
I don't know if you ever had plumbing done, but like they kind of just charge what they want. And they'll take whatever time they want.
That's true.
Because can you do this?
No. And you're not going to. You don't want to do it, and they know that. So they can,
like some companies look specifically for vocational schools just to find people to like just start working. But there's that stigma attached to like going to like a 2-year college, going to community college, and it's like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. I got to go to like a big 4-year school
and get in a lot of debt.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's not even worth it, depending on what your situation is.
Yeah, it just depends on what you want to do. But it's like allowing for all those options and let people know about all those options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. So that's good that you have been able to impact some kids and at least just be there and present and just especially for like the younger boys, like especially the ones that may not have a father or a big brother or somebody like that they can look up to and is like, because as much as their mother loves them, their mother cannot teach them how to be a man because she's not one herself. And so you being there present and just showing them, hey, if you want to go to college, that's possible. And just showing, I think some, especially Black kids like that don't have certain opportunities, just showing them that they have the potential and just showing them that they are worth it and they're worth investing in. That's what will make them want to do more. And I think that will incentivize them to go above and beyond, because when they know that somebody's, got their support, giving them support, pushing them to do better. And that's when they'll look back and they'll want to, because it's like whenever I was a kid and whether I was playing, running track or stuff like that, whenever I heard my dad like screaming my name, that's when I ran faster. That's when I ran faster. And so like, it's like the same way with kids, like, it's, teenagers and all that stuff. It's like, whenever somebody's cheering on your name, you're over there supporting them, and you don't even have to be their father. You don't even have to be blood to them. But the fact that they have somebody that they trust, somebody they know, and someone who like takes the time to understand them and then what they're going through, they will go and they will, they'll run faster, so to speak, and they'll do and climb heights that they never thought they could have ever achieved. So that's really great that, the stuff that you're doing, because you never know, you could be impacting the next, Black Albert Einstein or the next Elon Musk. I don't know.
I think that's really important to remember is like, we may not see the fruits of all the things that we do. I may not see how all of my kids are going to end up. And I hope that maybe something I did is going to help them keep them on the right path. And you're right. Like having someone you identify with as an adult, like being there for you is important. And like, even like the kids seeing me coming back and doing stuff, because some of the kids thought it was wild that I was even there. It's like, you could be doing anything. Like, why are you here? And it's like, because I like being here. I like doing this. Like, I enjoy, this was my calling. And you don't have to necessarily be like, a therapist, or you don't have to be like an advisor or stuff to do that. It's great if you were, but just making sure that you take time for those things. And like, me trying to be like a positive aspect of masculinity where I like, I'm like being myself. Yeah. I don't have to be anything
that you're not
different. Yeah. Like, like you said, when you're teens, of like, we try out being Black when we're younger, of like what it's supposed to look like. And we do all these things, what we think, what we see it. And then, the idea is as we get older, we kind of just fall into like being Black is just being you. Yeah. Because you are Black, and then just whatever you are, therefore, is Black. And that's it. Yeah. Like, it doesn't have to be anything else.
That's exactly true. And so, as we wrap it up, we have this question where we ask everybody, like, if life is like a house and, you're on your house and like you have a foundational structure, what's one foundational structure that you feel like you build your life, your house on? Because especially the things that the burdens that you bear with people's issues and problems in therapy, I'm sure you have to lean on something, a foundational structure of some sort. Yeah. What is that for you?
I mean, it's love and it's gratitude. Like when I work in the space that I do, like you see all these people overcome all these things. Yeah. And sometimes they even take you by surprise of what things people went through, and like you're still here. And you're even still seeking help, and you're seeking like assistance with it. So that can be very powerful and very inspirational to me. To see these people go through these things, come on the other end feeling resilient about it. Yeah. So just because you're like in that low moment doesn't mean you can't climb out of it.
Yeah, that's true. And everybody, no matter who you are, no matter how strong you are, everybody needs love, and everybody wants to feel appreciated and just like that somebody is there for them. So
everybody's worthy of being loved. And no, period. Yeah, everyone's worthy of being loved.
That's it. Even if you're, boys need to learn that, like, you can, say I love you. You can receive that love. It's not just that, you hurt yourself get back up there and, be a tough boy and, just know that you can receive love as a Black man. And, and as we conclude, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for, again, being on the show, and I really appreciate your thoughts and your perspective. We usually do question of the day, guys, and where we ask a random question, but I really wanted this episode to be a little bit more different and kind of shift away and keep it like more focused on especially men's mental health, and especially in the Black community, Black men's mental health. And so if you are a parent out there and you want to be a part of the Ebony journey, and you want to be a part of a space, a community where you can just be connected to something that's positive, sharing images, sharing photos, videos, posters, dolls, toys, whatever like that, all kinds of, even positive news. Like you can be, it's like they can join the Facebook group, right? Yeah. So you can find the Facebook group at The Ebony Journey on Facebook. So just be a part of that. And that's for the parents. For as far as if you're a young man out there, you're a man out there just going through life, and you're needing therapy and you don't like know where to start, and you're just trying to figure out, how do I begin this journey of like healing? You can reach out to David. His Instagram is Gentleman Wanderer. And you can also connect with him on journeycounselingllc.com. Again, that's journeycounselingllc.com. I'll leave the link below for these two things. And again, be sure to subscribe to this podcast, guys, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. But again, we want to thank you for joining this episode. We really appreciate you guys. And we will see you on the next episode. Peace.